It's June 1st, 2020. This is Rook. When you think of the contemporary stars of Persian music, you don't usually think of distorted rock guitars and crashing drums. But there are those who are breaking the mold of what is defined as the Iranian sound. And our guest today is at the forefront of Persian rock. He's a songwriter, a passionate performer, and one of the leading lights of those speaking out for what they believe in the Iranian diaspora. He's from Tehran, but he now makes the UK his home. Ali Azimi joins me from London for our feature interview today. These are stories from, to, and about the Iranian diaspora. I'm Jian Ghomeshi. This is Rook. Welcome to episode number 14 of Rook. How are you? Chatori? Certainly a lot of dark and difficult energy going on in the world right now. I hope you're all staying mizun amidst the ongoing global pandemic, the global protests, the global economic panic, and a general sense of foreboding that comes with injustice and despair. Of course, it's become all too apparent in the first few weeks of this program that one underlying commonality to the experiences of people of Iranian descent is a familiarity, for better or for worse, with crisis and challenges, if not atrocities. So some of all this does not feel entirely new, but here's hoping that things are okay for you. How are you today, Shayajan?
I'm great, thank you very much. How are you?
You're great.
Yeah, I'm fine, yeah.
Okay. Did you ride your bike here today?
Yes, every day.
Do you mask mizari? When you're on the bike, are you wearing a mask?
When it's busy, yes, I use my mask, but usually I'm alone on all the roads. And
okay.
Yeah.
That's a long way you come here. I'm
2
impressed.
hours, yeah.
2 hours?
Yeah.
So if you're on the... Yeah, I don't even know how it would work with a mask. I mean, I guess if you're biking with your mask... then is the breathing constricted somehow? I find it hard. I've tried jogging with my mask. It's hard, and I'm an asthmatic, so I actually want. All I'm doing while I'm running, when I have my mask on, is wanting to take the mask off. That's my entire running experience. I'm not enjoying running anymore. I'm just like got this mask on.
It's not healthy, I think, to ride or with mask,
right.
Because I think it's not healthy.
Wow. Well, way to go to riding your bike. We are getting some great comments about this interview, the last episode with environmentalist and former deputy vice president of Iran for that quick spate, that harrowing year he had, Kaveh Madani. Keep them coming at info@rookmedia.com. We're going to do our letters on Thursday, feedback on that interview. You can also find us on our social media sites, YouTube. We're at Instagram at Rook Media, Facebook at Rook Media. We also have a few more submissions for our Play the Rook theme song challenge. One from a prominent classical musician that I shared with you on the weekend when that came in.
Yes, I loved it.
It's very cool. It's very cool. I want to play that on Thursday. New versions of our Rook theme. Again, if you're a musician out there, an artist out there, and you want to do your rendition on whatever your instrument is or genre it is, info@rookmedia.com. Today's guest is someone I'm a big fan of, and you are too, right, Shaya?
Yes, he's a friend of mine, and I'm also his fan, one of his fans. Yeah.
You guys played together?
Not yet, but I
it's
hope
imminent.
we are going
it's going to happen. Yeah. I think he's fabulous. So without further ado, take a listen to this. taste of the song Prelude, or Pish Daromat, from the debut Ali Azimi album from 2013, Mr. Mean. That song catapulted Ali into the consciousness of Iranians, both inside Iran and across the diaspora. Ali Azimi is a singer, a songwriter, a lyricist, and a performer who was born in Tehran and has become one of the leading lights in Iranian alternative music and Persian rock, if you will. His poignant and powerful lyrics, his visceral performance style, his engaging melodies have won him a massive following around the world. And his latest song is a sublime duet just released with Golshifte Farhani. Right now, Ali Azimi joins me from London, England. Hello, Ali.
Hi, Jian.
So very nice to have you on this show. Thank you for doing this.
My pleasure. Happy to be joining your program.
You know, let me just start with what we just heard there. What goes through your mind, Ali, when you hear that song, Prelude, Pish Daromat, right now? It was such a pivotal song for you. Do you love it? Are you sick of it? Do you never want to hear it again? What are your feelings about it?
So it's basically like you say, it's like a love and hate relationship between me and this song, because obviously right after I started my solo career, I released it. My first album had this single in it, which went viral, which became much more popular than I ever expected, and kind of grew bigger than my name. I mean, in the first months and years of my solo career. So, if you like, it's a love and hate relationship because of that. Because I mean, it made me very famous. It made me like it was a big hit, and also at the same time it became so famous and popular. And I thought people were always asking for me to play that song over and over in the concerts, and you can imagine it becomes a bit annoying after a while.
Right.
Because you keep writing new songs, and people are like saying, "Oh, can you play that? Play that." And people are like, "Okay, come on, you come to my concert, listen to what I have to say." So yeah, no, I'm kidding, but yeah.
It becomes a question of where you put it in the set list too. Do you get it over with, or do you have to keep it to? The band Nirvana famously refused to play. They had a huge hit with "Smells Like Teen Spirit," and they refused to play that live. Some people thought that was just obstinance. Like, why? Come on, guys, give the fans something they want. But you understand that a band can become so sick of if people are coming to your concert just for Pish Daromat. No one would blame you if you sort of go, "Oh, do I have to play that every night?" And I guess you put it at the end usually.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, about once or twice we started with Pish Daromat just to get rid of it in the set. But most of the time we keep it at the very end, or one or two songs before the very end.
I mean, this said, we joke about it. It's a tremendous song, and the video is iconic in our diaspora. So rivetingly beautiful, fusing all these snippets and moments from Iranian cinema. 5 million views now on YouTube alone. What's the story behind how it came together?
So, if you want to give you a short version of the story, we're sitting in a restaurant with my friend Arash, who's a film director. Previously, I had played the demo of the song, and he loved it. So we were just sitting, and I said, "What if, Arash, we basically say what we want to say in the language of the history of Iranian films?" And because this guy is like a Iranian cinema guru, Arash, he knows everything about it. He's done so much research and study on it, and he's like a walking encyclopedia of Iranian films. And he kind of grabbed the idea and basically took it to where the end product that you saw. And he's just a genius, in my opinion. He knew every scene of every movie. I mean, we had selections of maybe 10 or 15 of every part of this music video that we had to choose from. So, it was a big task. It took us around 6 months to put it together. We were collecting the high quality of these movies, and also sitting for various days of the week during this kind of couple of months to be able to put it together. So we kind of engineered it really. Yeah, it took us a long time to put it together.
It's an amazing piece of art. and it also becomes this treasury of Iranian film in 5 minutes as well. But musically, it's also it's a treasure, I think, because I have to say, when I first caught wind of this song a few years ago, and I didn't know much about you, I was so excited because I had heard so little Persian alternative music or rock before. Pop, yes. Traditional, yes. Even mystical or fusion or hip hop, but Persian rock, not so much. Do you still feel like an outlier existing in this genre as an Iranian musician?
Well, I started way back. I started when I was a teenager writing songs. So, and I never liked. I'm probably not a very wise thing to say, but I never really kind of related to much of the Iranian pop music scene, and I wanted to create a sound of my own. I didn't have anything to listen to that I liked. Well, there are likes of the previous generation artists like Farhad, Feridun Fouqi, and Farhad Asani that I liked as singer-songwriters. They inspired me a lot. But there wasn't much more for me to get inspired. So I had to create my own path, create my own music, basically, to raise my own flag, really, in this genre. Yeah.
I'm going to come back to that because I want to hear about your story growing up in Iran and your musical influences. Let me just start with where you are right now, because you're our first guest, actually, who's currently in the city of my birth, in London, England. And it's no secret that the UK has been hit particularly hard by COVID-19. What's your impression? What can you tell us about being on the ground there right now and the current situation in London, Ali?
Yeah. I think I had it I got the corona, and I was down for 2 weeks at the very beginning in late February. I got it.
Wow.
And so I suffered from it. Yeah. I wasn't hospitalized, I have to say. I stayed at home. So I had all the symptoms and the fever and the body aches and shortness of breath, loss of smell and taste. Yeah, it was terrible. Because at the time I didn't know if I was going to be a serious one or a mild one. I was scared. So emotionally, I was under a lot of pressure.
Emotionally, you were under a lot of pressure because you were scared.
And it was a difficult time for me, anyways, emotionally. But this happened, and I wasn't sure if I want to survive or not, because at the time it was so unknown as well, and we would hear stories about people dying from it and having to be taken to hospitals and use ventilators and all that. So I didn't know what to expect, So yeah, I didn't tell my mom for the first couple of days because she's in her 70s, and I didn't want to upset her and make her nervous and all that. And I didn't want to see her because I was fearful that I might give it to her, and she has underlying health conditions. So it was difficult, but I'm over it now.
Your mom is in London as well?
Yeah, my family is in London. Part of my family is in London, and my other brother is in Los Angeles.
So, if I get this straight, in February, as COVID-19 is hitting hard, beginning to move westward and into places like Europe before it even hits North America, you get infected with COVID-19. And at the same time, I guess you're starting to realize at that point, now we're 3 months into this, but at that point that this is going to have an effect on your work life too. Tell me about what that's been like.
Oh, yeah. I've been hit hard by it, actually. I was planning for 2020 to be one of my biggest years in terms of having concerts and all that. And so far we have canceled 10 concerts, and I think another 10 were in the pipeline to be booked and announced. But we can't even think about it in 2020 now. So yeah, I was hit hard, and in early days I was really disappointed and hurt, and because the majority of money that we make as musicians come from concerts.
Yes.
So not ideal.
Not ideal, clearly. It's a weird thing, though.
No.
You want to walk the line between Bryan Adams, the famous Canadian singer, who was about to do a bunch of gigs in London, tweeted something. I mean, forget about whether what he tweeted was coarse or not. Just the fact that he was kind of bemoaning that he couldn't play shows drew the ire of a lot of people. It was because, like, oh, poor little rich boy, you can't play shows. Some people can't eat right now, So how do you feel about the? I mean, you might have a different career from Bryan Adams, of course, but it's tough to sort of feel sorry for yourself at the same time as you know that so many people are suffering, I guess.
Exactly. So when I get kind of nervous or sad about this issue affecting me, I think, okay, let's be clear. People are dying from it. People are suffering around the world from it in much more severe ways than I can even imagine. So I just say, okay, fine, I'll take it on the chin. There's nothing I can do, and try to find alternatives to make use of our time. I mean, I'm starting to think about completing my new album, hopefully in 2020, and just make myself useful, really.
Are you someone in general who worries about money, about making a decent career?
Well, for one thing about money is I would like to reach to a point that I don't have to be thinking about the end of the month issue, and as soon as that is out of the equation, hopefully one day, if I'll be lucky enough to do that, then that's my goal. In terms of the first goal I have regarding money is just not to think about it, actually, and be able to just freely concentrate on more creative side of my life, and that is something that I'm hoping to achieve with money.
There's probably people listening who are fans of yours for whom it would come as a surprise that you have to worry about money. When I was talking to Hamed Nikpay on the show, he was saying there's such a disconnect between his actual financial situation, which he described as zero, and the way he's perceived as this rock star, or this person who's doing so well in the Persian diaspora landscape of arts and culture. Do you find the same disconnect?
No, that's very true. Hamid is also a friend of mine, and I kind of I agree with what he says, and I believe it what he says, because that is, in fact, sadly the case for many of us. I mean, it's not about having a big name in the market or perceived as being successful. It's the reality of Iranian music scene outside Iran is something else, because it's not a huge market, if you can imagine, because they have to only rely on certain amount of Iranians in diaspora. But obviously, we don't have any access to our main fan base in the country, in our homeland, and we can't have any expectations from our fans to pay us, because there's no means of doing that. Especially in my genre,
I was going to say
music, Iranian rock music, which is pretty niche. If you think about it, 20 years ago, we couldn't even imagine going to a Iranian rock concert. But these days, I mean, the concerts are more often happening, and there is a bit of a market. I mean, last year I was kind of able to live off my concerts for the first time after 10 years of hard work. But so it's a battle. But for what we gain for it, I mean, for what I gain from it. I think it's worth it, because I get so much love and so much energy from my audiences, and that is so rewarding, So I can't really. I know it's not enough. I know it's difficult, but I don't want to really complain right now, because I just got out of Corona. I have to be positive. I'm still alive.
Damn it, Garen. It's clear that if you wanted to get into this for material reasons, you would probably not have gone into alternative rock as a genre. You might have tried to sound more like Andy or something. But and this is an interesting.
Poor Andy.
Poor Andy. He's got the star on the Walk of Fame. He's not poor Andy. Yeah, but
exactly.
I want to get.
Actually, I tweeted once saying, "What happened to Kurus's star in the in Hollywood. It was a joke, but it was fun. Anyways.
So tell me about
Yeah.
this then. How you ended up taking this path. I want to get to how you ended up in London, but the story with you is that you were born and raised in Tehran. You start playing music and studying classical guitar, in fact, at an early age, but then you end up gravitating towards Western rock. So, I mean, how did that even happen? You know, I've heard that your influences were Leonard Cohen and the Beatles. How do you discover Leonard Cohen and the Beatles? I don't want to be naive. I know that there were, you know, people were hearing things in Iran, but realistically, how you end up in that path in the 80s and 90s Iran and get exposed to those sounds, and why they had more of an impact on you than, say, Persian pop stars of the 1970s. How did that happen?
It's a very interesting question, actually, Jian. I was a strange child. I had a strange childhood. Like, I mean, when we were growing up in Iran after the time of revolution and during the war, I don't know. I never personally related to happy stuff. You know, even as a younger guy, I was always relating to more kind of grown up music. I mean, I was always relating to my bigger brother's music, or my, you know, the grown ups. And there were certain people that I really liked in my family, in the, you know, the friends of family and all that. And they had this, one or two people had this special relationship with me as a child. They gave me some good stuff to listen to. Like a friend of our family gave me a cassette of Cohen's, best songs or what favorite. I mean,
Leonard Cohen,
greatest hits or whatever. Yeah, and that was one big influence on me from the beginning, and Cat Stevens was another big influence of mine at the time when I was just like 10 or 11. And then as I grew more older, I moved into the world of Beatles, the likes of Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd consumed me for many years, but it was unlikely music to listen to at that age, I suppose. So I was never kind of gravitated towards Iranian pop music. I never kind of had any interest in it naturally from the very beginning.
Right.
I was disconnected completely from pop music, and I had like one or two or three heroes in the whole kind of music scene.
You know, there is a whole strand of, this is the kind of question I would ask a rock musicologist, but I might as well ask you, because you're as good as any on the Persian rock scene to answer this. There's one thing I've noticed with my friends and cousins and, you know, people coming from Iran at some point in their lives, as opposed to me who grew up entirely outside of Iran, is an interest among some parts of the, especially younger population, with atmospheric rock, with stuff like Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd seems to have really cut through in Iran. What is it about Pink Floyd and that kind of rock that worked for Iranians, do you think?
I couldn't tell you the reason. I'm sure you've seen the movie Searching for Sugar Man.
Sure, yeah.
The documentary. I mean, I'm sure Pink Floyd are big, they're huge worldwide and globally. But in Iran, they had such a big fan base when I was growing up that if they ever had a concert in Iran, it would have been a massive concert. I don't know why. I don't know the answer to that question. But I think certain type of music, certain type of novels, they came to Iran and they became hits. They became really popular. Like certain authors, writers are much more famous than many others, just randomly, you know, because somebody brought something to Iran and it got translated or whatever. I think the music worked the same way. Maybe lots of people that who were kind of going back and forth from Iran and the Western world brought some kind of music that became very popular amongst the Iranians.
So Ali Azimi ends up pursuing engineering. And in fact, that's what brings you to London. Did you, be Rook here, did you love engineering? Were you satisfying your parents with that career move, or did you just believe that music would never be a career for you?
Actually, I like the Rook questions better. Well, as a teenager, growing up in a family of engineers, my both brothers and my father. My family basically, like most of Iranian parents, they presented me with a couple of options, right? Like being a doctor was one of my mom's favorite, for example. An engineer was kind of something that was running in the family. And the other option was to become a lawyer, which I really didn't have any interest in.
That's a downgrade. That's a downgrade. That's below doctor or engineer, but still acceptable.
In Iran, yes. I mean, for non-Iranian listeners of this program, I mean, they should know that Iran is a very strange society. I mean, the parents are typically very value education a lot, but only towards certain,
not necessarily fine arts education. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you end up being family pressured, peer pressured, and having some interest in engineering.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't want to. I really don't want to blame my family as much, which I really should. But this was a theme in Iran, basically. And if you wanted to be regarded as successful, this would be one of your only paths to pursue. To become one of these things. And I thought to myself, I don't like this one at all. This one is even less favorable. So I went to engineering as one of the options that was interesting, because I loved physics. People in physics were my rock stars at the time. So I studied mechanical engineering in the University of Tehran. But, I was this kind of a good boy, this kind of positive boy at 16 or 17. I mean, always getting good grades. And I went to the University of Tehran, which is one of the things that I identify myself with, because I'm very proud of the experience that I had in the University of Tehran. But I have to say, maybe it wasn't the best choice that I had to make in life, to become an engineer at the time, because I went inside and I wasn't crazy about it. And the more I realized that this engineering thing is not about only physics, pure physics and all that, and I was forced to study lots of other things about engineering, and I grew less and less interested, right? But I kept the faith. So I finished it, and to become an engineer, I even started working in Tehran in a big firm called Nargan, which was a gas and oil consultancy. And then after a while, I decided to leave the country, and the only means that for me to leave Iran and continue living in London was to do like a master's. When I came to London, I was 26, so that was the whole story.
There's so many parents or people like right now in the Iranian diaspora listening to this going, یعنی تحصیل کرده همش خراب کرده رفت با این بازی کردن.
To be honest with you, my mom and my family were kind of scared in 2009 when I said, listen, I'm going to give up engineering altogether. After doing a master's in London, I started working straight away in the city of London. I was like in central London, in a big firm again. But I was growing less and less interested, to be honest, in my lifestyle. I didn't like to be what I really hated at the time was being an employee, to be honest. I didn't want to do what people told me to do. So I grew less and less interested, and one day I said, that's it. I just want to take a big leap and, pursue my dream. And that's what I did.
The thing is that I sort of, I'm being facetious when we joke about Iranians becoming engineers and doctors, or at least half facetious. We obviously big respect for those who do it and do it well. My dad was an engineer. Most of my family are engineers like yours, so I respect them profoundly. The part that's difficult for me, as an Iranian and as somebody who of Iranian background and as somebody who thinks about young people in Iran or in the diaspora who may have an interest, who really may have a passion for going into something like music, is that it's not just the streaming of us, especially those of a certain class, to go into doctor or engineering or lawyer, etc. It's creating the conditions where you don't think that music is really an option for you, for example, or certain kinds of art, unless you're of a certain stripe. And I wonder if that was true for you. For example, I've heard that you said you don't really think of yourself as a singer. And, I think if you were growing up in the West, with examples like Bob Dylan, you may, you may think you can sing. That's not but I guess if you're comparing yourself to a certain kind of Persian singer, you're not a singer. Was that part of it for you?
Well, if I understand the question right, I classify myself as someone who's just trying to tell a story or create a project and express my feelings. That's really the way I see myself. I don't even want to say I'm an artist. I mean, or like the Cohen said in his last album, I was always walking steady, but never called it art. That's it's not an art in my eyes. It's something that I'm trying to learn. I mean, step by step, album by album, because I came from engineering. I never studied that to become a musician. So I had to learn my way out and to put my bricks on each other one by one.
But nor did Paul McCartney. I mean, you what would it take for you to call yourself an artist?
Pink Floyd also, yeah.
Would you have to go to?
Well,
you're an artist, surely. I mean, how? This is very interesting to me because it's some kind of form of. I mean, it's modesty, but also. I'm actually genuinely curious. What would it take, do you think, for you to be able to own that and say, no, I'm an artist. I may not sing like Julio Iglesias, but I build these creative things.
I did. I worked really hard for my career, and I made a lot of sacrifices, genuinely. And I think I kind of deserve the position I have right now, maybe even more. But I don't want to get into that. But calling myself anything, what I was trying to say when I said that was, I don't really classify myself or categorize myself in any genres. That I don't really care about what I'm going to be called at the end. Am I going to be called an artist, a musician, a rock star, whatever? I'm just trying to do something that I love to do, and I'm learning. I mean, with each album, with each song, I'm learning something new.
So, Ali,
I know this might sound cheesy, but it's
no, it's beautiful. So let's pick up the story here. So you do the masters, you start feeling somewhat disillusioned or unhappy with the career in engineering. In 2009, interesting timing, you go back to Iran and you're with this band. You form this band, Radio Tehran, and you put out an album that comes out at the same time as the big protests are happening, the Green Movement, as we've come to know it across Iran. You eventually return to London. Some of your bandmates get imprisoned during that time. It sounds like a turbulent and troubling story of crushed hope around that band. What can you tell us about that time?
Oh my God, that was a strange time. When I remember it. It was so weird. It was sad. It was tense, and also very beautiful time for me. As soon as I gave up my job as an engineer, I went to Iran with hopes to convince my old friends to form a band. So I had a couple of songs and lyrics. I went there, and we sat, and I said my dreams. I explained my dreams for them, and they were on board, and they had their own dreams, obviously. So we got together. It was amazing times. We were four friends from. For many years, and we were always jamming back when I was in Iran. So this opportunity came, and we grabbed it. And for 3 or 4 months in Tehran, we were just playing and recording our ideas and putting it together. We worked with a famous Shahram Sharbaf. I don't know if you know Shahram Sharbaf, the founder of the band. I'm sorry, I just blanked out for a second.
Shaya, do you know? Shaya might know.
Shaya should know that.
Oham.
No. Oham, there you go.
Okay, thanks, Shaya.
So, Shahram Sharbaf from Oham, he did the production of the album, which was a great privilege for us to have him, because he was an amazing artist himself. And so we were just, we were virgins in this path. And so he helped us a lot. He was playing the keyboards as well as producing the album. So we put the songs one by one, and so we were just imagine Tehran just before the famous election that got basically
nullified.
You know what happened?
Yes.
And so basically we were hoping that, we were thinking at the time that, okay, this new Saudi guy is going to win it, obviously. And imagine we're just a new alternative rock band forming right now. We're going to have concerts. We're going to have. We were just dreaming about the scenarios that Iran is going to open up. We can do this and that. We're going to have concerts throughout Iran, and so we had so many dreams at the time. And you can imagine what happened when we at 6 o'clock in the morning, the four of us, we woke up just to check the results and sat by the TV with our underwear and everything. It was like for 5 minutes we weren't talking to each other. It was a huge kind of disappointment in the room. And when we heard that Ahmadinejad has won, and there was this sense of something's wrong. And the rest is history. There was the uprising and the crazy times, and the things that I saw in Iran was just, unimaginable.
So what happens to the band then?
Well, the band disbanded not because of what happened in Iran, not because of the 88 thing and Green Movement. We just, me and my fellow bandmate Pedram, we came out of Iran into London. He was doing a master's in music production, so I just went back to my life. And the other two remained in Iran, right? And this distance was not helping us. We never came back together as a band again after that, really. So I had to create another band in London with some other friends that I met here to continue the path and to be able to take it to the stage. Something which I did, and the guys in Iran weren't happy about it, obviously, and so there were some personal disagreements, and I decided to kind of, after the first album of Radio Tehran, I decided to follow my solo career, and I became Ali Azimi afterwards.
You became Ali Azimi, and only 3 years after that, in 2013, you end up putting out your first solo album, which makes huge strides for you. Let me just give people a taste of the title song from this record, Roqe Past, Mr. Mean. Take a listen to this.
خیابونا رو دور میزنه با کمی ترس دنبال عشق میگرده توی ولیه اسمش آقای پسته یه مرد نمونه توی شهر ما مثلش فراوونه.
From 2013 and the album Mr. Mean. That's the song Mr. Mean, Roqe Past. That's Ali Azimi. That album comes out. It's your first solo record. That also includes the huge hit Prelude, which we played earlier. And that song, Mr. Mean, also becomes a hit video and wins the Fatah Foundation Prize for Best Short Film. Ali, how much did this record change your life and the direction of it?
Oh, I would be lying if I say it didn't. It did change my life drastically. And this song really kind of took me to another world, and this kind of album was so successful. I remember playing this song in London for the very first time. So imagine the video came out 10 days before, and we had this show in East London in a kind of a medium-sized club called Cargo. And I couldn't believe it, that everybody in the room was singing this song, which was just got released. And I couldn't believe that the song is going viral so fast. So it did change my life. I mean, it helped me a lot to build my career, and it gave me a lot of positivity from people. I had a lot of, love from it, and it was a great incident in my life.
As I was researching for this interview, that somebody called that song and your performance on it, that makes you the Persian Bowie. David Bowie, which I thought was way over the line.
Right.
Don't compare anybody to Bowie, first of all.
Yeah.
How dare you compare
I agree
anybody
with
to
that.
Bowie?
How dare you?
But it is
Yeah.
but it's a tremendous compliment, and so obviously that I can tell that record would mean a lot for you. And of course we've talked about how much that the song Prelude became iconic as well. So 3 years later, in 2016, you put out your second album, and I specifically, Ali, I want to ask you about the song Zendegi, Life. First of all, let me say this. You work with a number of legends from the arts and culture scene of the Iranian diaspora for this song and this video. And that's something you've done musically as well, whether it's Namju or Irfan or Golshifteh. What do you get from these collaborations?
I get a lot from it. I learn a lot. And I like collaborations. And I'm actually planning to do a lot more if I can. I mean, you get the beauty from one person that, I mean, every artist that you work, the artists that you like, obviously the ones that you choose to work with, they have a side that you really like. So you use that side, you bring it into your work, and you kind of imagine, for example, the song Fardos Romanbia. Without Namju, that song wouldn't have been the thing that it became. Became something greater. And so that's, as a producer, I co-produce my own work as well. So as a producer, you're always thinking about creating the best scenario, best thing that you can have. And these collaborations, actually, I think they add value to my work.
This song, Zendegi, was dedicated to the great Iranian poet Houshang Ebtihaj, but there was some controversy around it, Ali. What happened exactly?
Oh, yes. I mean, basically, when we released this song, it became again a very popular and a very viral thing in the first 1 or 2 days. And then there was a huge campaign of negativity which was created. And it really hurt me and Arash, who was also Arash from the same guy who created Pishtarama. So what happened was, I worked with Arash as a producer, and he was a director, to create this music video for this song. We are using the poetry of Houshang Ebtihaj, which is a great favorite piece of poetry for me, and it has really touched me deeply. So we went and basically raised this idea to the people that we chose to pick for this project, and we wrote an email to everyone, and we did like a proper producer, like you would. You're a pro yourself, so you know what I mean. So we did all this. We ticked all the dots, basically. We did everything that we could to do it properly, and we got the permissions and everything. So the daughter of Mr. Houshang Ebtihaj, she came after us with the allegation that I stole this poetry from his father, and I didn't have any permission to do this. I didn't have permission to film this artist. So, and lots of things which were completely and utterly untrue, because the other daughter of Mr. Ebtihaj actually kindly arranged for us to meet and go to his home in Cologne. We met them. It was a beautiful day. It was a day that I never forget in my life. We had the privilege to go and sit with Mr. Ebtihaj, and we had a chat with him, and I actually went there initially to get the permission. So I raised the issue to him, and towards the end of our session, he asked me to sing it for him, which was, I mean, it put a lot of pressure on me in the room, and because imagine singing for Ebtihaj. It's a great Ebtihaj, the figure that everybody loves and adores. And so I did. I sang it for him, and we videoed it just for ourselves and with his permission. And we came back to London, and we created the video, we edited it, and we sent it again to everyone. And we got the okay from every single person, Mr. Ebtihaj, Mr. Ali Azimi, Dr. Roqe, everybody. And so it came out, and this happened. So I was forced to release that private video that I played for Mr. Ebtihaj at the time, in front of the very song which I was accused of stealing. It's amazing. What really amazes me is the great ability of Iranian society to just turn against itself, to its own people, its own artists. I mean, there's so much hatred, I realize, so much disappointment. They just want to take someone and just, throw everything they had at them. But then we realize this is the name of the game. I mean, if you want to, if you're growing in something, if you're making a name for yourself, it will happen to you. I mean, one day, sooner or later. I mean, it's very unfortunate. You have this. I'm not saying Iranians are the only community or the society who are like this. No, it's definitely something global. But as you can see, they're really fast to judge Iranians.
What was the part that hurt the most? Was it being accused of some kind of plagiarism, or was it realizing?
No, it was a lie. It was a lie.
Of course,
we were so careful with every process of this work. I'm an engineer. I take I engineer everything. I take my work seriously, and Arash is a very dedicated, honest guy, and we did our best, and our only purpose was to pay our tribute to this great figure. And what happened was like a slap in the face. But we took it on the chin, and time will tell. I mean, time always will settle things. And I think now there's only a song left that people love and listen to. And all those allegations are like basically to resolve for so many, and so many are still accusing me. Or I don't really care. I just do I just go forward. Do what I have to do.
Let's give people a taste of this song. This is from 2016, Ali Azimi, Zendegi.
چه فکر می کنی که بادبان شکسته زورقه به گل نشسته است زندگی در این خرابه ریخته که رنگ عافیت از او گریخته به بن رسیده راه بسته ایست زندگی.
The song Zendegi, Ali Azimi. It's a dark song, Ali. Setting aside the poem part of it, the lyrics are heavy. The sentiment is melancholy. I was looking at some of these passages. With thousands of years of rain, you still cannot defeat. We are all caught in this somber whirlwind together. It's hard to listen to that while watching some of these familiar Iranian faces in the video and not think that you are someone singing this about Iran, at least allegorically. What can you tell us about the mood of this song?
Definitely. That is definitely true, but your realization is completely true. And what I have to say is, what I wanted to do also, in addition to obviously paying the tribute to Mr. Taj, which I dearly love, I wanted to kind of put a light on these artists that they're scattered around the world. Iranian artists who are all amazing. I love every single one of them. I've read their work. I've listened to their music. Me and Arash, we were a bit selfish about making. In the process of making this music video, we chose our own heroes basically, and these were the people that we could reach, and the ones that they accepted to take part. The message was greater, obviously. The message was to just say, to kind of relate the music video to the song, to the core of it, to just say, listen to the lyrics. At the end of it, it has this message that's saying, no matter what, no matter how hard life gets, you just have to continue, like the river. And it was about Iran also. I added to the lyrics. To the middle part of the song is my own lyrics. Those were my kind of perception, today's perception of Mr. Taj monumental poetry. And I said that to him. He asked in our meeting, he said to me, I listened to the song and he went like, okay, the middle bit, whose poor person's poetry was that? Whose lyrics was that? I said, it was my own. I wrote it. He was like, did it have to be there? I said, well, this is my translation, my take of your poetry, and I decided that I want to change the mood in this part of the song and say what I had to say my perception of this lyrics and then continue and taking back to your to Mr. Poetry at the end, which says John Trump, Shikastes. So I said that to him. He was like, he wasn't. I would say he wasn't pleased about it for sure. But I had to put my foot down and say, this is my decision for the song. And he was saying basically, I'm not going to give you permission or not give you permission. You can do whatever you want. I was like, okay, thank you so much. And we said, we had this amazing evening with him.
Wow.
And his wife. And
did you want him to love the lyrics though? Were you hoping that he would go, oh my God, you nailed it. That's exactly.
No. One thing that he said to me, because I don't think I'm the greatest singer of all time. I don't have the greatest voice. But what he did was he complimented me on my voice, which weirdly, I said, I like your voice. It has a very good tone. But, and the but was obviously about the part of the lyrics. And when I spoke to him about this poem, this poem called Zendegi, before we started, to chat about the permission and everything, I think my take about the song, the poetry was kind of not very far from his own, and that was really pleasing for me to think that I understood it. The other thing that he was pleased about was the way I kind of used the music inside these words, to put music into it. He was also pleased with that, but which was also a great compliment. So before that, when I read this piece of poetry, which I only used, the first part and the last part of it. I didn't use the middle part of it because it was such a long kind of piece of poetry. For 1 month, I'm not exaggerating, 30 days, I kind of said goodbye to everything, and I was working on this song and trying to fit this lyrics into a song, because I was absolutely blown away by the beauty of it. And I'm still it's like it's a monument for me. And tell you another secret, in my new album, which is called Kahrabai Arezu, I'm using the middle part of this poetry in a song called Kahrabai Arezu, which is again because this album of mine is about love. Yes. And the middle part of that poetry is also about love. The first and last part is about zendegi, about life, and the middle part is actually talks to love, as it loves the character. So it's beautiful. It's fantastic. Yeah.
I'm going to get to the newer records. Let me just stick on this for a second. Ali Azimi, you don't shy from political lyrics or maybe provocative lyrics in your songs. And I want to share a story with you from just yesterday. Somebody called me. He's a young hip hop artist who I guess he knew somebody that knows me, and so that person had contacted me, and he said, hey, Jian, I just wanted to ask you your thoughts on, what do you think of some, like, if I write political lyrics or something quite strong. He lives in Canada now, and he's Iranian. He said, what do I do in terms of these lyrics, in terms of the implications for me to go back and forth to Iran? How would you answer that question? I
haven't been to Iran since the 88 Hashtag. We know what the shit is like in Iran, so I don't need to explain. But it's a risk, which I wouldn't say, and it's very random also. So from what I know, some people can go back to Iran doing like more kind of provocative things than just doing putting lyrics on a song, and they're okay. And some other people are being put into prison for much minor, kind of less important acts against the government. I guess it's not a democracy. Let's put it this way, right? So it's risky if you want to consider that. But you have to be prepared to this friend of yours. I want to say if you want to do that, you shouldn't really think about it. You have to be prepared for the consequences if you want to do something like that. Otherwise, forget it.
It's a conscious choice, is what I said to him. You do,
Yeah.
you can make the choice and then you'll decide, but just do it consciously. But 3 years ago, in an interview with The Guardian, Ali, you said it's heartbreaking that I cannot perform in Iran, and you also spoke of the kind of censorship there that you said makes songs impotent. Can you explain what you meant, and if you still feel that way?
Of course. Yeah, of course. I still do feel that way pretty much. And imagine, for us, I mean, lots of artists, lots of amazing creative people are, not just artists. I mean, imagine producers, lots of people, amazing scientists even. They can't go back to their country to live and to just experience living and dying and whatever, being around your family in your own country. Not many of people around the world can say that they have this experience in life. If we Iranians are basically cursed with this problem, with this issue that we have, as you know, there's lots of people in the diaspora of Iranians, they really don't feel safe to go back to Iran. Would you feel safe to go back to Iran, Jian, today, tomorrow? Would you?
That's not a choice that I feel like I can make, no.
So you can imagine what I mean.
Yes.
It's not an ideal condition right now, and we have to fight it. I think we have to fight it. It's ridiculous. Being an artist, if they tell you that your work has to be monitored before being published by some band of people that think they know your art better than yourself, I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, having to go through permissions and all that. So as an artist, I call myself an artist now. I kind of chose never to go through that route, and never to actually bend the knee to just.
But Ali, you've also said your dream destination is Tehran, and you'd love to live and work there.
Of course.
So how? Of
course.
Is that?
Of course.
Okay, so that's not really realistic though at this point.
And also, you know what, John? If you listen to my second album is about, Is That Ziad, is about a person in diaspora, immigrating from your own country and living elsewhere, and looking back. The picture of this, the front of this album is me sitting on a donkey backwards.
Yes.
So it's a story of an immigrant who's taken by his donkey, which is the immigration, and then he's looking back at where he came from. This is the situation that we have, and the literal translation of the title of the album is that Ziad was "Till Glory Finds Us." So this is one thing that my view on that never changes, as long as the government of Iran are treating us like this and seeing us as people who need to get permission. I would say goodbye. I would say is that the to that.
I think one of the difficult parts of it is
right.
what the great Iranian writer, God bless him, Dr. Reza Badahani used to call the exilic mindset that a lot of Iranians live in, and that is to move across the other side of the world, but to be squatting there thinking, well, we're just here for a little while. Eventually, we're going to move back to some place that may never exist and maybe never did exist, but rather than integrating into a new society, and there is something different about the character of Iranians in the diaspora that have been outside of Iran for a long time than those in Iran, and Merzad Bourjadi, who was on this program a couple of weeks ago, he said, why are we so committed to being one-dimensional people? He wasn't just talking about Iranians, but in general. He said, why can't we celebrate the fact that we can pull from different cultures, and so we've got this Iranian culture, but you can also immerse yourself in British culture, say. It's not necessarily about having to only go back to that umbilical cord that you have with Tehran, but to immerse yourself in being a London boy at the same time and create a dual or a new identity there. Does that resonate for you?
Yeah. I think I'm not a great fan of nationalism, to be honest with you. I'm not. I think humans are humans. I mean, these borders are meaningless in my eyes. But I also loved where I came from. I also love my people, my fellow Iranians. That's why I chose to continue singing in Farsi, because I still have that connection. I still dream about living in Tehran, and the memories I have from Tehran are part of my best memories I kept in life. I imagine I only left Iran when I was 26, so I had my whole youth
Right.
spent in there. So I have a lot of strong relationship with Iran. But in the same time, I don't want to take the opportunity away from myself on immersing in other cultures. I love other cultures too. It's like going to a party when you see 100 of beautiful ladies, for example, or for opposite sex, beautiful gentlemen. You know what to do. You know, there's so many things to learn and to take in, and there's so much beauty in the world. That's my more kind of generic view on things like that.
You know, I know I can't keep you here forever, but let me just a couple more questions. You put out a new album last year called "Of Love and Other Evils." Let me play a little piece of a song called "Panahande."
Sure.
شدم من غرق عادتت پناهنده به سفارتت دیدن قرص صورتت برای من ضرورته نمیدونم بدون تو چه خاکی به سر کنم نمیدونم بدون تو چه خاکی به سر کنم نمیدونم بدون تو چه خاکی.
Little taste of Panahande from the latest Ali Azimi album that came out last year, Of Love and Other Evils. This is, I'm told, Ali, the first concept album in the history of Persian music. Why did you decide to create a concept album at a time when everyone's given up on concept albums? You know, I think Radiohead was the last one. Or I guess Beyonce did one, but, you know, tell me about that.
Well, one of the albums that really inspired me when I was younger was the album by Roger Waters called Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking.
Sure.
Have you heard? Yeah. So I wanted to kind of create something not exactly the same as that. I mean, I didn't even try to kind of tell the story the same way. But now the idea of, you know, relationships, the idea of love itself, as a kind of a middle-aged man who's like has had so many ups and downs and so many mistakes and so many defeats in the path of love and relationships, and also so many great memories and so many fantastic times and the big height as well. So in 2018, after a breakup that I had, a severe breakup that I had, I decided to listen. Okay, I write love songs. Some people say Ali Azimi is good in writing love songs, which pisses me off. But you know, I decided to tell the story of these phases. Right? I decided to capture these phases in different songs and put them in a chronological story. Anyway, so I put the songs next to each other and wrote 2 albums. Basically, I wrote the idea down for 2 albums. The first album was Of Love and Other Evils, as Ishq o Shayatini Digar, which was telling the story halfway, and then the next album is supposed to come and basically take the cycle, finish the whole cycle basically, and go back to the point zero.
You know, for this album of Love and Other Evils, you work with 19 musicians, 10 of whom were from Iran. And you've said many times that you see yourself as a curator who handpicks each musician for every single track. This is not necessarily the way a lot of people operate. Even solo, you know, Bruce Springsteen had his E Street Band. You know, they play, you know, that's my drummer, that's my bassist, these are the guys I work with. What's the advantage of working with different musicians for different tracks?
I don't know if you know, but I used to work with the same band for 5 years called The Need.
Yes,
all British.
Yes.
And after a while, I thought, this is so British for me. This is not what I want, right? I want to experience. I love it. We have created so many amazing songs together. We toured the world together. We had amazing time together with these guys, and I love every single one of them. But I decided towards the end of this kind of journey that I want to kind of go back to Iranians and be able to communicate better on stage and also in production of the songs. So yeah, I mean, being able to use, I mean, different people with different songs, it gives me the benefit of being more specific about the feeling that I want to achieve in songs. I mean, I know it's not the ideal way of being a band, an ideal way of creating music, because obviously we need to be in the same room to perfect it and play it over and over and over, as you know, Jian, because you've had the experience of being in a band yourself, right?
Yep.
And you've been pretty successful, I hear.
Well, in the 90s. Yeah.
Back, that song
I'm
back
old.
in the 90s.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So, but, being away from Iran, obviously, and really wanting to work with amazing musicians inside Iran has driven me to do this and to take this path. And I've been very successful with it, and I'm planning to continue doing that.
Ali, man, I could, I could speak to you for a long time. It is such a pleasure for me, and I appreciate how candid you are, how real you are, and the art that you create. I want to end off. We're going to go out on this song at the end of the show, but this sublime new song you've just released with Golshifter, called Marz Por Gohar, which also features another gorgeous video, you in the videos. But to me, it's riveting lyrically, and I want to read a couple of the one of the stanzas from this song, because it's quite powerful, even though the song it's not like a punk rock, harsh kind of sounding musically song, but what you're saying, let me just read these lyrics. Oh, you treasure-filled land, geographical determinism, the hell with this lot. What cruel hand wrote this fault in our stars? We've seen enough of war. We've suffered enough. We'll take no bullshit anymore. So you're not pulling any punches there. Tell me about the stark sentiments behind those lyrics from this new song.
I wrote this song right after they shot the airplane down, and the pain of the disappointment and the sadness was so immense that I just couldn't think. It just came out of me somehow. Golshifter came to my concert in New York back in October. We started chatting on WhatsApp, and she said to me, "I really liked one of the songs that you played in the concert." And it was during the time that I was writing this song. And I said to her, "Listen, I have this new song, and I was thinking about using a female voice on this song to just give it this sense of a man and a woman singing something about the country, about Iran." And I said to her, "Listen, do you want me to send a sample to you?" And I sent a video that I recorded for myself. And she said, "Wow, let's do it. I love it." And she was very energized to kind of take it forward. So we planned to, I sent the song to her. She listened to it. She kind of sang on it. We created the harmony. And that was the story of that song. And it was directed by my good friend, a very talented artist, Rahi Rezvani in Amsterdam. So me and Golshifter went to Amsterdam to the studios. We created these rooms, and we did the video there.
It's ironic. I know that when you made this video, it probably was pre-COVID, but because to describe the video, which people should, after they finish listening to this, go to YouTube and check out for themselves. But you and Golshifter are separated by a wall and sort of on two sides of this divide, which is strangely appropriate for social distancing and isolation days. It's almost a video tribute to quarantine, which was probably unwitting.
It wasn't intended.
But so beautiful and very powerful, as I say. Ali, I am so grateful for the amount of time that you've spent on doing this with us. And I know Shia, who is part of our team here, was stoked to have you on as well. He talks so highly about you as a musician, as does everybody. I thank you so much for the time you've taken. I thank you so much for the art that you're creating, and we can't wait for this pandemic to be over so we can do this in person next time.
I hope so. And I thank you. Thanks, Shaya, for his kind words, and I thank you, Jian, for his amazing interview. The questions were. I mean, one problem I always have is the interviews that we get offered as musicians are not really in depth. They're not really done. People usually don't pay attention to the research before interviewing, and I'm really congratulate you on this, because you've done a thorough email, and congratulate you and your team basically for this.
You're very kind.
A great job. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. You take care of yourself.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. That is Ali Azimi, the songwriter, the lyricist, the performer, the singer. And we're going to go on that song with Go Shifte. This is full time for this episode of Rook. Thank you so much for listening to this show and supporting. Do subscribe. See you Thursday. Mizun Bashin.
آه از اعماق جان و وای از احوال دل، آه از این آینه که شده پر از زنگار و گل، وای از سرزمینم کی میشه ببینم که خوشی، دست تو بگیرم دیگه وقتشه که پاشیم، از بیخ بریدن رست تو کشیدن، ای جان این جایگاه تو نیست، دستاتو بستن قلب تو شکستن، این بس سزاوار تو نیست، ای مرز پرگوهر. جبر جغرافیایی توف به این سرنوشت، این قصه رو کدوم نامرد به قرعه ما نوشت، ما جنگ کم ندیدیم رنج کم نکشیدیم، به خرافات و مهمل دیگه گوش نمیدیم، فیوز هامون پریده این گل رمیده، ای چوپان پادشاه تو کیست، این گرگ های دریده یا جان های بلب رسیده، ای گرگ اینجا شکارگاه تو نیست.